Hey, you guys, this is Scoot Malaire here. Today, I'm coming to you guys to tell you I have finally figured out exactly why I am here doing this channel. It struck me, it hit me. This must be some sort of a midlife crisis. The only thing is, this isn't my first midlife crisis. Long story short, and I'll get more into it later, but about 12, 15 years ago, I took a whole bunch of t-shirts up to Washington to a big rally. The rally was kind of a political nature. The shirt said, "It's we the people, not you the government." They were wildly popular. I find they're wildly popular with just about anybody that takes a look at them. So I followed this dream of going from festival to festival and fair and country music concert and all different types of places selling these shirts and had a grand old time. But that had to come to an end, and now I'm teaching school. But as I'm teaching school now, I have just found this creative streak lately that has me just figuring out different ways to say song lyrics or come up with stories or write kids' books or I don't know, all kinds of different stuff. But rather than just sitting on these things, I decided I'm going to make a bunch of videos. And that's where you guys are coming in. And I really appreciate you guys coming along for this ride. Because truthfully, I'm not 100% sure where it's going to go. But what's the point of having a second midlife crisis if you don't have people coming along for the ride? And what was funny was just to get perspective, I asked my eighth graders today if they knew what a midlife crisis was. And about 3 or 4 of them were confident they knew what it was. And about 5 or 6 of them weren't quite sure. But one of them that was confident decided to speak up and say, sure, a midlife crisis is when a 30 or 35-year-old realizes they're already halfway through its life and they have to go out and do something crazy. Well, coming from my perspective as someone that's a little more than 30 or 35 years old, I thought this was kind of funny. So this second midlife crisis, so far what I have on the horizon is this. I've got a fair that I'm booked to set up at in 2 weeks where I'm just going to go in with a huge sign that says Stories by Scoot, put out a bunch of folding chairs, see if anybody stops by to hear a story. Maybe I'll even put out a tip jar. Also, I've got a kid's book I wrote called The Ambitious Ice Cube, and rather going through the traditional channels of finding a publisher and an illustrator and maybe even an animator for this one, I want to do all those things, but I want to do it right here on YouTube with you guys. I think the whole process of it would be pretty cool. And a lot of times I fumble my way through things and I have to stumble and bumble and I make a few mistakes here and there. But by the end of it, almost the journey can be half of the fun. And I hope you guys will come along for that. And then the other things that I've got coming up and going on, I'm in the middle of kind of putting together a song that I'm writing. I'm taking some old stories that are now part of public domain that are classic stories, but were written in language that we don't use anymore. And I'm figuring out ways to rewrite them both in story form and maybe even in book form. But either way, as long as this creative type of streak keeps happening, I want to keep sharing this stuff with you. And in between, I'm going to give you guys a lot of the stories of things that have happened to me as I was growing up, because I have a feeling a lot of similar stuff happened to you guys too. And the way life works is a whole bunch of it. 98, 99% of it might be boring, dull, not all that interesting for a lot of people. But when you really look at that 1 or 2% that was really fun to be a part of or really fun to go through, when you pick out those moments and find a creative way to share that with other people, not only do other people enjoy that, but sometimes it sparks a memory for them, and then that starts a conversation they might not have had otherwise. Anyhow, like I always say, I'm not sure where I'm going with all of this, but I'm really glad that you're coming along for the ride. And there's going to be a whole lot more to this ride, particularly if you would please decide to subscribe, like, and share for more Scoot Malaire.